And what someone pointed out was that whenever a special prosecutor is hired, he's being paid this massive sum of money to come up with something. And that's exactly what happened with the Salem witch trials. They brought in a special prosecutor. So this person had to justify their existence. And that was why in the Salem witch trials, over 20 people were put to death because they had a special prosecutor. And they didn't go through the normal channels of justice that were set up for normal civil offenses, which is you are accused of a crime, you're what? Innocent until proven guilty. This was not the case at all with the Salem witch trials. They were guilty upon accusation. Not only were they guilty upon accusation, but in order to get free of the accusation, they had to implicate other people. It was just a horrific thing that happened. So they bypassed the normal system of justice, which was innocent until proven guilty, and then jury trial by one's peers. So that whole thing is a very fascinating, interesting study in this period of American history. And it wasn't just happening in Salem, like we learned in Witch of Salem or Witch of Blackbird Pond. It happened in Wethersfield, Connecticut. It happened in other places in Massachusetts. So it was a really strange phenomenon that kind of spread across the colonies, and all that sort of religious fundamentalism that just gets so crazy. Where they kill people thinking they're doing God a service. We have the same thing going on today. It's religious fundamentalism in its worst form. So that's an interesting aspect. Okay, let me see if there. I do want to encourage you, especially for your younger children, to not forget about the Dallaire books. I know a lot of you have them, and a lot of the children have been assigned, to select a colonial figure and do some research on them and learn some facts about them. The Dallaire books are fabulous for that. So don't feel like these are too young for your intermediate students. These are actually written, most of them are written at about a fourth, fifth, sixth grade reading level. The vocabulary is very rich. They're historically very well grounded. You can get these at the library. You can also get them at our company, but a lot of people have them in here, and I'm sure they would be happy to share if you want to use them. Katie needed to do some research on George Washington, and we did some of the WebQuest stuff, but I couldn't find anything like really solid out there. There was, like bizarre things like who had wooden teeth. Like, well, yeah, George Washington had wooden teeth, but what does that have to do with anything? So you need just a good solid biography that a third, fourth, fifth grader can get their minds around. George Washington's World by Genevieve Foster is great for your older kids. So use those resources. Most of you have them in your home. Don't forget to pull them out. And then, like I said, use them for your timelines. And I think that's all I have to say. So any questions or any thoughts or anything you're struggling with that you need help with?
Is there in existence, am I just looking at a list of supplemental reading to go along?
Yes, thank you. That was the other thing I was going to say. When you got your packet at the beginning of the year, it had the whole scope and sequence of everything we're going to study this year. And under your required reading, there's a whole list of supplemental reading. And I really want to encourage you. Those supplemental lists have been worked over really, really well. And those books will really enrich this subject for your students. Most of you I know can't even imagine where you're going to get the extra time to read something additional. But, I know, I did want to say a couple of things. Because we're moving into the early revolutionary period, and Benjamin Franklin's going to play a big part, and John Adams and George Washington and all the founders. I wanted to remind you that Benjamin Franklin was a Quaker. And this is really fun because now everybody that's read The Witch of Blackbird Pond has this idea of Quakers. But all they have really are sort of negative connotations in the sense that these people really hate these Quakers. Like, what's that all about? So you want to sort of balance that out with who these Quakers were. And the best way you can do that is to study a little bit about, William Penn and Benjamin Franklin and one of my all-time favorites, Benjamin West. And Benjamin West was a little boy that grew up in Pennsylvania. He was in a pretty strict Quaker family, and he had this extraordinary gift. He was never given art lessons, and he actually had to make his own paintbrushes, and that's why this is called Benjamin West and his cat Grimalkin, because he made the paintbrushes from his tail, the tail hairs of his cat. And then the Pennsylvania Indians, who were very friendly Indians because they had been so well treated by William Penn, taught him how to make colors from the earth. And Benjamin West was so phenomenal in his ability to depict the human face and the human form as a young boy that he was noticed by a Boston businessman who said, I'm going to pay to send this child to art school. Well, Quakers didn't believe in making images. That was against their religion. You don't make images because that's against the commandment about idolatry. Make no images of anything under the earth and all that. So the Quakers were in a real conundrum. It's just like, what do they do with this child? He clearly has a gift that he's been given by God, but our religion says no idols. You can't make representations or images of anything. So all the Quaker leadership have to get together, and they have this big, conference to decide what to do with little Benjamin West. And they decide that if God gave him this gift, that it must be from him and that he should pursue it. So, due to that little conference, we got one of the most extraordinary portrait artists at this period in history. Not only that, he was so skilled, he was sent to London to the Royal Academy of Art, and he sat under the great portrait artists in London at the time. He was a friend of Christopher Wren, the great architect who rebuilt London, and he got to just rub shoulders with all these really notable people. He was so phenomenal that he was the only American ever put in the position of president of the Royal Academy of Art in London. And that still holds today. No American has ever held the title since Benjamin West, this little Quaker boy that grew up in the woods of Pennsylvania. So this is a really fun story to do. It'd be a great read aloud as a family because it's just his childhood growing up and all the little adventures he has with his cat.